Hello, cave dwellers. How are you doing? Welcome to a rare live stream here in the cave. One that I'm really excited to bring you because it is with the one and only Ian, aka Hoffman, legend of the Amiga music scene. Ian, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Rory's also here with us today. He's going to be sharing with us your involvement with the Nova demo party here in the UK and demo parties in general. And then we're going to have that live set that I know you're all waiting for with Hoffman with his Amiga 600s here, playing your own music, isn't
it?
Yeah. So we're going to hear Hoffman's own tunes on the software that he created to DJ with, and we're going to find out a bit more about that. I thought it would be a shame not to pick the man's brains while he's here before having a DJ set, and this I'm extending out to all of you in the chat. I can see we've got Nigel, Mark, Velociraptor, 16-Bit Man, Steve Mann. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's great to have you here. If you've got any questions for Rory or Hoffman, we've got Vicky here, Pixel Vixen. Let's go over to her camera. There we go. You should be able to see Vicky. She's somehow claimed the soft chair here today. So if she doesn't fall asleep, she'll be picking out your questions and making sure they're answered. So, hello, Rob. Hello, Ferris. How many of you have we got here? We've got 219. That is a blooming good turnout. So thank you, cave dwellers new and old, for joining us. Let's get to know Ian because, nobody knows Hoffman better than Hoffman himself. So your talents, as far as I can tell, go beyond just being a straight-up musician. You know, you've got a lot of technical skills. What would you describe yourself as?
Musician, DJ coder, I think is probably about... So I think in terms of the coding, I kind of do coding for a job, which is your fairly standard C# kind of stuff. But when I was kind of doing more technical stuff within the demo scene, I saw how I could apply that into, kind of pushing the limits of what some of these older machines can do and even what the newer machines can do with, code, but also with a, musical mind behind that as well.
Yeah. It's always interesting to know what these super cool characters do. DJ Hoffman, man of the Amiga music. What do you do for your day job? You mentioned C#.
Yeah, so I work for a software company in Salisbury.
Okay.
So we do, like warehouse management, order management systems.
Okay.
So I do a lot of integration work, C# and SQL. So a bit of a dab hand at that kind of stuff. But yeah, so as I say, that's a day job. So my spare time, it's all it's more coding. So it's one of those things where I sit at a desk and code for most of the day, then I go home and code for the evening.
Yeah. But different kind.
Different kind. Yeah.
You've clearly from doing that job, you've got those technical skills.
Yeah.
Both sides of your brain work. That makes me really jealous. I can do the technical stuff, musical stuff. I'm terrible at, so it's nice to have. Rory, you're more involved in arranging demo parties and things like that, aren't you?
Yeah.
Have you ever been involved in a demo? Have you made music for a demo, or made music on trackers or anything like that?
Yeah, I used to do a lot of tracker music back in the day.
Yeah.
I used Renoise and Fast Tracker, and I have been involved with a few small productions, music-wise. So. Yeah, definitely one into one music.
Let us know what they are? Or?
One of them is called "On the Relative Benefits of Dental Prosthesis."
Catchy.
It's a real classic. So I'll do bits and bobs.
Yeah. Cool. Hoffman, your first credited output goes back as far as 1991, 92. And you operated under a different name then, didn't you? What were some of the names we may know you as?
You may know me as Hidelide or Dreamfish, were the two most prominent. Okay. I don't think I used any other handles other than
Did you appear as just Ian every now and then as well?
No.
Okay.
Always, a degree of separation there.
Okay. How are we looking in the chat there, Vicky? Have we got any questions coming in?
We've got some nice questions here already, so if you would like me to pass them on. So Vincent asked, did the music help you in any way in your professional work later on?
No.
Simple question.
No.
Rory, you're being asked to move nearer to the mic when you talk. Just a couple of people have mentioned that. So sorry about that, guys. We'll sort that out. Any more questions there?
So, are the Amiga 600 modded in any way? Asked Michael.
So they're both pretty vanilla. They have a SD IDE adapter as the hard drive. I've removed the floppy drives just because it makes them lighter.
Yeah.
And they've had a sound mod on them because the 600s are missing a lot of top end in the sound. And there's 2 capacitors you can take off of the board. Pretty simple thing to do because you're just hacking them off, really.
Okay.
And
we will look in a bit more detail at your setup just before we go to the set,
Yeah.
and also the software that we use. So we will go into some more detail. Modern Vintage Gamer, thank you so much for joining the chat and for your $10 super chat. It's very much appreciated, and it will go towards beers for Hoffman at the very least. He's made quite a journey to get across here today, so we appreciate it, and thank you for your support. So how did you settle then on the name Hoffman?
It's a kind of a trade secret, but if you could do your research about probably one of the most interesting psychedelic bike rides ever taken many years ago, then I think you'll find the roots of where it comes from.
Okay.
But also it seemed to be something that you could shout across a club quite nicely to the DJ booth, so that seemed to stick.
Okay, right number of syllables. It's
Yeah.
Goes
You can
through,
really
cuts through the
really
crowd
shout
noise.
it.
A
Yeah.
shout of Hoffman. You're best known to me as a prominent demo scene musician using the Amiga. Did it start with the Amiga for you?
In terms of writing music, yes. I mean, I did dabble on a couple of things on the C64, but I was very young then, and there wasn't really that much in the way of software that was easily accessible, especially to someone as young as I was.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I first got an Amiga, I think I got a copy of, I think it was known as Med back then, not even Octamed, on a cover disc, and then started playing with that. So yeah, that's where my at least I wrote a lot of music in those early years.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any other musical training before that, or was it just straight on the computer?
No, I mean it in terms of my actual musical theory knowledge, it's pretty lacking.
Okay.
Yeah, so I tend to just hit the notes until the right feeling comes out.
So many of the great musicians in interviews, they say, "No, I've never learned to read music. Don't need to." No. So how did you get involved in your first demo release then?
So I suppose if you think back to when the home computer craze was happening in the late 80s, early 90s, obviously we weren't as a connected generation back then. So you'd kind of meet people that had the same computer as you, and then you'd go around to their house or hang out and play games or whatever. And there was a few people that I knew, Ian and Andy Jolly and Clive.
Have we got any of them in the chat here?
I don't know if they are.
You saw some. You recognised Echo Level, didn't you? And a few
yeah.
There.
So it's
so this is in Salisbury, isn't it?
Yeah,
Which
in Salisbury.
If you don't know, it's a pretty quiet cathedral. It's a city, isn't it? But even though it's a city, it's very, very small. And I grew up in a very small town. I can imagine it would be a similar sort of scene. You've really got to root out those Amiga owners. You've got
it's really grassroots.
Chuck
kind
some
of
floppy disks on the floor and hope they come out. And,
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, even back in the day. Yeah.
Yes.
So you got a crew together.
Yeah. And there's obviously we enjoyed watching demos and kind of wanted to try that kind of stuff out. So kind of within our group of friends, one of us decided to be learn coding. One of us was a dab hand at drawing, so became a graphic artist, and then I was the one that liked to do the music. So kind of we each kind of picked what we wanted to do. Yeah.
Gary Audley, thank you very much for the super chat, sir. Very much appreciated. Rory, what was it like for you then at the same sort of time? Was there a scene where you grew up?
Well, not really. I mean, when I got to 18, which was about 1999, I used to watch demos with a bunch of colleagues, and we never really knew what the demo scene was apart from downloading these productions and looking at them.
Yeah.
And it only came a few years later on when I joined an RMC channel.
Yeah. Sorry. Can you lean in a bit closer?
Yeah,
Sorry, I just remembered people asked you to join. So lean in closer.
Am I coming through? Okay? Yeah. So yeah, basically, there was a local LAN party going on near Exeter, and I thought this would be cool for a demo party, and then all went from there, really.
Yeah. Very similar to me. Hoffman had a very different look into the scene than we ever got, I think. So you came up with this crew. Did they have a really cool name?
I think we called ourselves Scandal.
Scandal
at the time. Yeah. I can't remember whether we spelt it with a K because that was really cool. But yeah, we were as friends. We would go to like computer shows and things like that, and then we'd kind of bump into other Amiga owners at various events and things like that, and then we ended up kind of joining another bigger group with more members, and then kind of that.
Did you call yourself Scandalous when you grew?
I wish.
I've got to say a quick thank you to Jules Wills, who's made a £10 super chat. And the message, more beer money. We are. Oh no, we've got Matthew as well. Thank you, Matthew. $10 for cider. So we're on the beer and the cider tonight. It's going to get messy. It's going to get messy. Scandal. You came up with the crew. What was your first release? Was it anything memorable?
I'm trying to think what it was now. I think we just put some music together with a little front end with a piece of graphics and something you could select the tunes with. It wasn't particularly great. I think we were then joined Flashing Bytes as part of the UK division. So they're already kind of connected up via Europe and what have you. And then we did a music disc called Sweet Sounds, I think it was, which is a pretty terrible name.
So these are music discs rather than elaborate demos.
Elaborate
so
demos,
a bit of scrolling text.
And that's pretty much it. So
your work appears under the banner of loads of different demo groups. You've worked with many of them. Does that suggest that just creating the music wherever and whenever you could was more important to you than sticking into one group for the sake of being a member of a crew and everything that came with it?
It's kind of a more kind of an organic process, particularly over the last 10 years since I've been in the kind of come back to the scene. Is you kind of you go to demo parties, you meet people, and they may have heard your music and they may be working on something, and you kind of form friendships, which then means you work with a certain crew, or someone gets in touch and then you work with them. I should give a shout out to my boys in Logicoma. So that's the kind of one of the main groups that I'm in, which is one that we built with Ferris and Wobble and Darth Shader, who's the mysterious character that no one ever sees. So we're like a close. That's our close knit group, so to speak. But a lot of the other groups that I work with have just kind of happened out of conversations or wanting to work with someone. So if you see another group who does demos and they say we like your music, we'd like to work with you, and you go, well, I love your demos, I definitely want to work with you. So
is it a bit more acceptable to do that in the present day? Was it frowned on a bit to sort of hop between groups back in the day? Yeah.
It's you kind of back in the 90s, you had your allegiance and that's what you were supposed to be doing. And then when people like if a good musician hopped groups, then it'd be news in a disc mag.
You would be the lamer on the scrolling text in the next release. Pints and Amigas, thank you very much for your $10 contribution for more beer. Very much appreciated. Vicky, how are we doing with questions there, Vicky?
Well,
I think
4 questions here.
Dave was asking, are you behind the camera? We'll pop over to Vicky's cam. There we go.
Yeah, I am here, folks.
Vicky's here. And Keith from the Digital Orphanage is also here. Keith is lurking.
He's
you need to come towards Vicky. There he is. There's Keith. Calvin Robbins, thank you very much. Vicky, we've got a unicorn from Calvin. Thank you.
Always need a unicorn.
Hit us with the questions then, Vicky.
So, Velociraptor asked to start with, is Hoffman ripping off Ravi's thing? So,
for those who don't know, Ravi from the 8bitmix.com mixes with DJs. Hello, Ravi. Mixes with DJs. Mixes with Amigas. Hello, Ravi, if you're in the chat. And he uses a piece of software which Hoffman co-created. So that's what's behind that question. What's next, Vicky?
How big was the rivalry between the Amiga and the Atari scene, from your recollection?
How big was the rivalry between the Amiga and the Atari scene?
I think it was pretty big back at that time, but I was very much focused on just we had only really watched Amiga production, so we didn't really see a lot of it. But I hear stories of that time where there was it was quite fractious, I think is the word.
What's up next, Vicky?
Okay, we have MVG says that Hoffman is a legend. I can't tell you how many times he's listened to Eon in his car. There you go.
If you're not familiar with, sorry, because Vicky hasn't got a mic, I don't know if you can hear her, but
Sorry.
MVG says Hoffman is a legend, and he can't tell you how many times he's listened to Eon in his car. If you don't know what Eon is, you're going to become very familiar with it shortly, because we will talk about that. What's up next?
And the next question I've got is from Vincent, who asked, why Amiga 600s, why not 1200s, for instance?
Good question.
That is a good question. It's just the form factor of them because they're small. The software runs fine on virtually any Amiga, or any Amiga, actually. So it was just, it's just size and weight, really.
Yeah.
So you can get them into a flight case a bit easier.
Yeah, and the mixer on the table, it's a pretty chunky mixer. And I raised this earlier with Ian, and he said, well, normally he doesn't have to take that with him. He just uses the mixer at the venue. So it is literally just the two Amigas and a few cables.
Yes, exactly.
Pretty light setup. Any more questions over there?
We've got one from Retrodrome Music here. Did you use synths with the tracker software, or did you just rip the samples from other mods?
So thank you for that. Did you use synths with the trackers, or did you just rip off samples?
Back in the early days when I was younger, there was a lot of sample theft from other people's music. But these,
I've got my techno
that's
sound
what you
turbo
need.
there.
That was your essential piece of kit.
It's not in shot.
Back in the day. But this, the stuff I've been doing in the last 10 or so years on the Amiga has all been, it starts off within a modern music application using preset, VST synthesizers and effects. So I generate a lot of my own sounds now.
Yeah. Electron Ash says, sampling in music, that'll never catch on. We'll see, Ash. Mad Pete, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. He says, thank you for doing this, guys. Mad Pete, a long-term follower and loyal cave dweller. Thank you, Pete. I appreciate you watching. I'll crack on with a few more of my questions, Vicky, and if you've got any more, let us know in the chat, and Vicky will pick them up. Are they behaving in there, Keith? Have we getting any abuse in there? No, they're a well-behaved lot. How many have we got in there? 310. Sorry, I'm making him nervous now. Sorry. Are there any music discs or demo releases that you're particularly proud of?
I think 8-Bit Jungle was a particular favourite of mine. Because if we go back to try and shortcut the story, so I left the demo scene for quite a number of years, and then Rory invited me to what was then known Sundown in 2010, and I got a real bug for making something on the Amiga again. So with that in particular, I actually learnt how to code in terms of the graphical stuff, and actually really dug deep into the system to understand it as much as possible as a result of trying to make that music disc. I was just so focused on making it that I wasn't really thinking about any kind of impact it might have. And then when it was finally released, I was quite surprised at how well received it was.
This is a music disc that came out in 2011, 8-Bit Jungle. I know this because that was my choice as well. I'm really quite pleased that you picked the same thing as me. So let's have a clip of it for anyone who hasn't heard this music disc. This is on an Amiga 1200.
It does. So there's actually a bug in the boot block. It should work on any Amiga with 1 megabyte of chip RAM.
Okay.
But there's one instruction in the boot block that makes it stop working. So there is a patch for that. So but essentially it'll work on any OCS Amiga with 1 mega chip RAM.
Okay, we'll have a listen now. And before we do, thank you, Rob Carroll. He says, thanks for having demo scene guests. It's my pleasure, Rob. And Nick Cartwright says, have a pint from me, buddy. You were always destined for fame. Is that a friend of yours?
Yeah, he's a friend from school, yeah.
Excellent. So bear in mind, this is 8-Bit Jungle, which is on 3 floppy disks?
3 floppy disks,
3 floppy disks. Here's a clip. Thank you, Phyllis Maggie, who made a PayPal donation there. Really appreciate it. What a great... there's a whole hour worth of jungle on those floppy disks.
Yeah.
That's just a small bit that I picked out. Amiga lovers will know that that's a sample from the game Unreal that's been used there.
Yeah.
See, Ash, sampling will never catch on. But no, it's a great disc. The whole thing is on YouTube. I'll dig out some links for anything that we talk about afterwards and put them in a comment in this video so you can go and check them out. If you look in the description to this video right now, there's a link to Ian's SoundCloud, to Nova Party, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I will add some more links. It's amazing, though. It's amazing to hear that coming out of those machines.
Yeah.
Absolutely love
they're
it.
so versatile. So,
how technical do you need to get to achieve the results you want? Because there are standard music formats for the Amiga.
Yeah.
But you must need to apply some tricks to fit what you need to do into the space that you have. So what are some of the more technicalities?
It's a lot of the time, you have to know the format very well, and also, how big, a certain sample might be when you put it into Pro Tracker, and also forward think the fact that you've only got 4 channels to play with. So you have to, take all that into consideration. So there's that aspect of it, but in terms of generating the sounds that go into Pro Tracker, there's a lot of technical work that goes into that in terms of EQ and compression, just processing the sample as well as you can, so it's as loud as it can be before you send it into the 8-bit domain, because as soon as that's a one-way thing. As soon as it goes there, you've lost all your detail. So that's where a lot of the kind of sound quality comes from, is making doing that sound design and then pushing it as far as it will go.
And is that something that you could have done back in the day? Because I know you use modern tools now before you do that, before you push it into the Amiga, and Keith raised this earlier when we were chatting about it. The workflow, the way that you work must have changed significantly, even though the Amiga is still the same Amiga.
So you would essentially, unless obviously you had a full incredibly expensive studio with all of that equipment in, then you wouldn't have been able to do that pre-processing beforehand. So you do end up, obviously with the Techno Sound Turbo, you're just sampling whatever it is, and then you've got that capture of that sound, so you can't filter things out or anything like that. So in terms of the way I work now, it's almost predominantly done within a PC environment. So there'll be the music software that I use for writing music in general, and then obviously an emulator, and then just because it's all within the same environment, it's a much quicker way of working. So I think I tend to leave so you kind of sketch out a project on the music software. I use Ableton at the moment, but it could be anything.
Okay.
And then I leave that there. And if I need more sounds, then I can just fire that project back up and then add some more bits and pull those out.
So you are not really restricted in any way at that point in what you can create. You're not working within the restrictions of the Amiga when you're first crafting out. And then the challenge comes, the technical aspect of squeezing that into the 4 8-bit channels and the pooler chip, which dates back to 1985, the Amiga 1000. It didn't change. You had the AGA chipset and everything, but it still had the same
sound chip, yes,
through all those years. It's amazing, really. What do you put the Amiga's longevity down to as a musician's tool?
I think it's a lot of it's to do with the fact that it was a very cheap and accessible sampler. And if you look at how, particularly electronic music anyway, how the sampler, or in music in general, when that arrived, it was a massive, big change within, in terms of a creative tool that you could use. And then that just put it straight into people's homes. And it was an added bonus of also being a computer you could play games on.
Yeah. And convince your parents that it was for educational purposes. Yes. It was a complete package, Rory, let's bring you into the chat a little bit more here as we move on to talk about the demo scene more in general. What are considered to be the demo parties to go to in the present day?
The biggest one is Revision, which takes place every Easter in Germany. It's in a town called Saarbrücken, and it has about 800 people going along to it. It's the biggest pure demo scene party, and it's carried on the legacy from Breakpoint, which was the biggest one before that.
Okay.
Essentially, all the scenes come together for that party once a year, and it's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it goes on like
3-4 days. Isn't it?
3 or 4 days.
It's the
Wow.
entire bank holiday weekend, isn't it?
And some people stay in the hall the whole time as well.
Yeah.
So it's a non-stop party really.
Comatron says you all need to come there. So I've never been to a demo party. That's going to change next year. But if I do go to a demo party, I'm not sure that you went to any back in the day, but Hoffman certainly did.
No, I'm 37, but I'm a bit young for that.
So if I go to one in the present day, am I going to get the authentic demo party experience? Am I getting something that is diluted compared to the 90s, or am I going to get the real deal?
Ian?
No, I don't think it's at the core of it, which is obviously making things and watching them.
Yeah.
And it being competitive in that aspect. I don't think that's changed. I think in terms of the visitors, obviously the age has kind of increased, so it's a little more sensible than it might
It's
used
funny
to
you
have
should
been.
say that. I just saw in the chat, Jules Wills says there's less puking these days. Less vomit to wipe clean up.
Yes.
Let's see what we can do about that.
Well, we've got the beer money now to do that. I mean, Rory, you're trying to you are bringing the scene to the UK. Obviously, you must be taking inspiration from Revision and from the approach that they take in the creation of your own demo party.
Yeah.
Which is called
Nova.
Nova. It's just not Nova Party, it's just Nova.
Yeah, the website's novaparty.org.
Novaparty.org.
Yeah.
So this is based down in...
It's in Budleigh Salterton, so it's in Devon near Exeter.
The demo scene capital of the world, Budleigh Salterton, which conveniently is really not that far from me, so I've got no excuse not to go. We've actually got a clip here from the last one, courtesy of Ravi Abbott. Thank you, Ravi. So we'll talk while we bring that up on the screen, hopefully. There we go. There's some clips of it. There's no audio with it, so you might need to
Oh, that's
have a look round, but you can see. So what's going on there then? That's the main hall.
All right, Ian, hold on. Yeah, so basically, someone's asleep on the floor there. So essentially, this is the daytime where a lot of people are working on their productions. This is more the nighttime thing where got DJ sets that are going on. So in the day, people work on productions, music, art, coding, and then so Friday night is more of a social arrangement, and then on Saturday we show all the productions, and they get voted on by the audience, and then afterwards we do a big DJ set until we hit a noise curfew, and then we all go down to the beach and carry on the party down there.
So is that like 11 p.m. or whatever the normal?
Oh, it's 12 o'clock on the dot.
Oh, 12 o'clock on the dot.
Then we say like, everyone leave.
Everyone leave really quietly. And actually, I think there was the Queen on the wall there. And then I think later on in the clip, you all end up at the beach with the fire going, music blasting out.
I think another it's a fairly new addition is they do it at quite a lot of parties. They have live shader coding.
Okay.
I don't know if you know what a shader is. It's basically a small program that goes onto your GPU and then does real-time graphics. So you'll have two people head-to-head for 20-25 minutes with a DJ playing, and then they try and code the best graphical effect within that period.
And you can see it evolving as they code, can't you? So you've got the code in the foreground, and then in the background you've got whatever they've just changed suddenly appears magically.
Exactly,
it's really cool to watch. The demo that's on the screen now is made completely of emojis. That one just disappeared.
That was YX and Subby's demo from last year.
Yeah. And there they were on the beach there with the fire. So the social aspect of it is key, isn't it? It's not just about who's the best coder.
Oh, it's absolutely social. It's finding people with the common interests, and also if you're creative with any old school platforms or new school, you've got a way of sharing it with people who are generally interested in what you do.
Obviously, back in the day, well, the impression I get from the scrolling text and everything was that it was super competitive, and you did tear up your competitors on those on those screens. Does that competition remain to this day?
In a much more friendly state, I think it is now. I mean, we are, we'll still greet other groups and what have you in your demos, but it's much more a friendly competition. You want to kind of outdo your friends. We'll
just pause there to see if we've got any questions from Vicky. How are we doing over there, Vicky?
Yeah, good actually. So we've got a few queues up here. We've got 5, I think. So, Matt Renton asks, are the Amigas MIDI linked in any way or time clock linked in any way?
No, there's no sync between the two. You've got to do it manually.
Yeah, cool. So, Matthew Walster asks, what's the recommended fish to choose at a traditional Nova demo party, or is it all-night bacon on the beach?
Sorry, I forgot that you haven't got a mic. So, who asked that question?
Matthew Walster.
Matthew Walster wants to know what's the
recommended fish
to
choose at a traditional Nova demo party.
To choose at a traditional Nova demo party.
Matthew should know this.
He should know this, yes. So that's the fish and chip shop, isn't it? The legendary Budley fish and chip shop.
Like fish and chips.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'll just stop you there. Kieran Masterton, thank you very much for the donation to the beer kitty, as it is now officially become. Very much appreciated, thank you. Carry on, Vicky.
No worries, no bother. Steve Gleason asks, Hoffman, are you planning to do some Pro Tracker seminars again at Revision? I'd love to attend one.
Hoffman, are you planning to do any Pro Tracker seminars again at Revision? And this is on YouTube, isn't it? You can go back and watch your seminar.
So I did one called Secrets of Pro Tracker, where I explained how you can use, there's certain tricks, you can exploit bugs within the code to do things that you wouldn't normally be able to do. I have considered of possibly doing a seminar that I would call the last Pro Tracker seminar in existence.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, we've just had, who's arrived? It's James. Just arrived as noisily as he could. Welcome, James.
Chris is present.
Thank you, James. Let's bring you back to that camera. Oh, James, come and wave to the mod cam. You'll need to stand next to Vicky. So James has arrived from the YouTube channel Let's Talk Retro, one half of the channel there. There you go. Vicky, any more questions from the chat?
A couple more here. So one from Echo Level for Rory. Please, could you play a 3-hour future sound of London mix and fry some bacon whilst I lie on the floor?
Please, can you play a future sounds of London mix and fry some bacon while he lays on the floor?
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay. I just stop you there to say the one and only Spoon Wizard is in the chat, aka Echo.
Yes.
It is the real one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you here.
I'd just like to point out I stole a lot of his samples back in the day.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So Spoon Wizard is the man behind the music that was in Jesus on Ease demo. And can you remember what samples you pinched?
About 30% of them from that music disc.
Okay, which in turn were pinched from somewhere else anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure Spoon Wizard wouldn't claim he created Tubular Bells.
Everybody knows it's Jerry Halliwell.
So, Rory, just getting back to Nova, we know where it takes place. We know where it is. When is it?
It's on the 19th of June.
He's written on his hand.
It's 19th of June. The site novaparty.org is online now with the dates there, but we'll be opening registration on December the 1st.
Right. Get yourselves over to novaparty.org. If you're in the UK and you have any interest whatsoever in the demo scene, get yourself down there. I'm going to be there. Are you going to be there, Hoffman?
I compare the evening and do the sound system. So
excellent. So you can come and meet us all. You can come and hopefully enjoy some awesome demos. When these guys turn up and they code, presumably they've already coded a lot of what they're doing, or are they creating everything from scratch over the course of the weekend?
Most of the time they come prepared like 90 or 95% of the stuff's
so they're
done.
just sort of tweaking it. Yeah.
Well, you get a bit of a mix. You get some people that turn up and everything's done, and they go, well, we're done, upload it to the system, and then drink and chat.
I guess people have got different reasons for coming for the weekend, whether they just want to drink,
they've
done all the work, or they want to get some
yeah.
help from others to finish it or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So novaparty.org, get yourselves there, and hopefully we'll make it so that you need to hire a bigger hall next time, I hope. A bigger sound system. Now, speaking of demo parties, we have to talk about the 2019 revision. There was a demo there by TBL, or the Black Lotus, called Eon. Quite a few of you in the chat have mentioned it. Let's bring the clip of the party up. Here's revision. There we go. So what you're seeing here is the team, TBL, of which Hoffman is now a part of, still a part of?
I believe I'm officially a member now.
Okay. And your demo, Eon, there are the results coming up for the Amiga demo, and you were number one. Pretty close with, who was second. The Deadliners, another great
And
group.
Lemon, yeah.
Yeah, they came second. So you won it with this demo, which was phenomenal. We'll play it a little later in full when we're setting up to do the set. I think what really strikes me about it is that it works on pretty much a stock Amiga. You've just got the trapdoor expansion
The
in there.
512K expansion, yeah.
And there's the other result appearing on the screen there, which is the crowd favourite. You won the crowd favourite, and you can see by a long shot, here come the results. It's like, you're the one at the bottom. Yeah, a clear winner. The crowd absolutely loved it. And I think they really respected the fact that it ran on nearly a stock Amiga 500.
Yeah.
And when you think about it in that way, you could conceivably have put a little bit extra RAM in an Amiga 1000 all the way back in 1985 and run it.
And still run it.
Can you imagine the impact that would have had if you saw that demo running on a 1000 in 85? It's incredible. But obviously all the techniques and the tricks took several years to develop. Thank you very much to the Guru Meditation, Bill and Anthony. It's a pleasure to see you here. Thank you very much for the donation to the beer kitty. It might now become a Korean beer kitty.
Yeah.
I think we're getting that way. So there is revision. We'll come back to us on the camera there. And you have a blog where you have all of one post. It's the best single post blog you'll ever go to because you go into great detail about the creation of the music for that Eon demo, don't you? Tell us a little bit about some of the technicalities that you had to wrestle with.
I have to give a shout out to Emoon, who I worked really closely from TBL. So as you might know, with an Amiga, there are essentially two types of RAM. So there's chip RAM and fast RAM, and the chip RAM is only accessible to the custom chips. So that's where you can put sound. Obviously, when we were starting this, we both agreed that we wanted to push that as far as we could. So obviously, we had to use a lot of techniques. For example, all of our drum loops are all generated on the fly from a collection of samples. We did kind of a sample swapping buffer as well. So like the samples of the tune are actually scattered across both discs, and it kind of streams them up off of the disc into RAM just before it needs.
So it's not loading the whole tune into memory.
Exactly,
it's streaming it and
streaming.
Is it compressed as well? Is it sort of?
There's some sample compression. The pattern data is all compressed as well. So
it's incredible. Is it difficult to stand out musically in the demo scene because you do listen to a lot of demos and hear a lot of similarities, a lot of demos being influenced by each other. So is it tricky to sound original?
Yeah, I think the trick to that, or the key to that, is to it depends on how much of an interest in contemporary music and a wide variety of music as well. And if you take those influences and bring them on board into your own music production, then it's also kind of knowing what's accessible. Like you could listen to a lot of stuff that a lot of people would call challenging listening.
Okay.
Like some Aphex Tune songs that are quite hard to listen to, I would say. But if that's your thing, then you can do that. But I like to try and make sure that it's something that I'm into, but is kind of accessible. But it's just taking all those influences, and I think the thing is the devil is really in the detail, in terms of your song structure, all the little elements that you may bring in and out, just extra layers and little edits and fine touches throughout.
In that Eon demo, it really builds and builds, and then you have this crescendo where you'll see the demo in a minute, but the second half of the demo, the first half of the demo is impressive, but the second half of the demo, it really comes to life and the music grows with it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's really nicely choreographed. And is that something that you enjoy, the choreography of the music to the demo? What comes first, the music, the demo? Does it?
It depends on the project. Sometimes someone could be working on. So in particular with Eon, that was a much longer period. So we worked on that over a period of about 4 to 5 years. So that it starts off with a mood board. The person who has the creative vision will know kind of what they're going for. So for example, I'll get that mood board and then I'll go and listen to a bunch of different pieces of music, and then throw them at the the guys to say out of these, what do you think would really kind of go what would work with this, and then then a couple will be picked, so we'll use those as what we call reference material, and then kind of build a tune that is of a obviously original work, but within the same kind of atmosphere as that.
It's like you're scoring music for a movie.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So you could. It's particularly frustrating with Pro Tracker as well, because when you have creative or technical decisions where stuff gets cut out or put in, then you could be there editing in obviously Pro Tracker, which is an editor with 1990s style editing facilities, which makes it quite challenging in the first place. And you're there then having to suddenly cut out big chunks of it or put extra chunks in. It's quite challenging, but at the same time, it's if you want it to work with the visuals, then you've got to put that effort in.
Yeah. Vicky, let's come back to you before we go on to our last section of questioning here. How are we doing in the chat?
We're doing quite well, actually. It's really busy in there. So, first question from Matt Renton. And they're asking, did Hoffman ever use an Akai S-Series sampler?
Did Hoffman ever use an Akai S-Series sampler?
And resample the Amen breaks?
Well, I've obviously used the MM break many a time. And I only actually used an Akai series sampler when I was doing my sound engineering course many years ago.
He's got qualifications, ladies and gentlemen.
Just about. We did spend a lot of time at the pub, so. I think I'd done a lot of sampling on the Amiga, and then when I kind of decided to start doing music a bit more professionally, the technology within the software had kind of caught up. So, rather than having all this expensive kit, I kind of, I was a poor student anyway, so I was going down the cheapest route. So.
Yeah. So you could download those VSTs and
exactly,
else,
yes.
and then squeeze them into the Amiga.
Yeah.
What else have we got, Vicky?
Matthew Walter asks, can I enter the Nova competitions remotely, and do you accept fax?
Can I enter the Nova competition remotely, and do you accept fax?
Yes, and maybe.
I think actually, if you did a mega demo on a fax machine, I think people would enjoy that.
Well, is that Matthew Woolster, yeah?
Yeah.
Matthew Woolster.
I don't know, I think he's teasing us. He's actually, Nova wouldn't exist without him, to be honest, because he helped me with my first demo parties. He can do whatever he wants.
Was Brown 4.99? Get yourself some poppadoms. Thank you, Was. Very much appreciated. Thank you. Good to see you here, Was. And I hope you had a good trip to, I think it was London you were in today. So good to see you here.
We get stretch goals for naan breads or something.
Oh, you're right, the stretch goal. Another £10 is the stretch goal for naan bread, yeah. Maybe a Peshwari naan?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. What else have we got, Vicky?
Retrodrome Music asks, what was the smallest music mod file that you've made?
What was the smallest music mod file that you've made and that you're proud of?
Well, this is a slightly twisted question in the fact that I actually started coding kind of sample generation tools on the Amiga. So I think it's a tune that I'll play later. It's called Generator, but it's actually a 32K executable tune that generates essentially an 800 kilobyte module. So there's a few samples in there, but a lot of the sounds are generated with a few bits of synth code that I had. In terms of that, it's the smallest because it's only 32K, but actually when you run it on the Amiga, it expands out into a huge tune.
I remember when I switched over from owning an Amiga to owning a PC, and I wanted to check out the PC demo scene. Excuse me. And it just didn't feel the same because it felt like the limitations had been lifted too much. But that's kind of addressed at the demo parties in that they have the 64K limits or whatever limits. And then that really forces people to do what they can within that space. I like that.
Yeah.
Vicky, anything else?
Yeah, we've got 3 more here. MVG wants to know how Hoffman pulls off sidechain in the kick drums on a 4-channel Amiga.
MVG says, how does Hoffman pull off sidechain in kick drums on a 4-channel Amiga? Did I miss anything? Okay.
There is, it's explained in my Secrets of Pro Tracker seminar.
Okay.
So,
we'll make sure that link goes up. In fact, if Keith, if you're able to find the Secrets of Pro Tracker seminar by Hoffman on YouTube, can you slip a link there into the chat?
Yep.
Just slip it in there for everyone.
I think the search should come up with the that result.
Vicky, another question?
Yeah, 16-bit man asks, what sampler does Hoffman use?
What sampler does Hoffman use?
This
An
day
Amiga.
On Amiga, yeah. I mean, in this day and age, I don't, because I work predominantly within a PC environment. So the big thing for me is not actually recording samples, because obviously I've got a huge library of them, and synthesizers and what have you. So the key thing for me is the conversion process when you put it down into 8-bit. That's the thing that you really need to make sure is done as high quality as possible.
Any more?
Last one here. Manway asks, who sang in Storm Rider demo?
Who sang in the Storm Rider demo?
Oh, that is Gavin, aka Daytripper. There's a particular Pro Tracker module that we did together that's 1.7 meg. It's pretty large. Yeah, you should check that out, because that was the first tune that we worked on together. And he knew nothing about the demo scene, so we got together. We had a few drinks. I showed him some demos. I explained to him, the limitations that we've got, how the demo scene works, and everything. And then he just wrote the most amazing and apt lyrics for this tune. It was just phenomenal.
Excellent.
So yeah, Daytripper.
You'll see a link there posted by me. That's actually Keith, who is dangerously logged in as me, and that is the link to Hoffman's seminar. And I saw that Dan Ibbotson, DJ Slope, good to see you here, Dan, asked, is that Apex Twin in the background? Yes, it is. There's an Apex Twin record there. I won't spoil it for you. That's going to appear in an episode upcoming soon. Vicky, any more questions from you, or shall we push on?
Now,
okay,
yeah.
So I know everyone's keen to hear your set today, but before you do, tell us a bit more about the setup on the table. You did touch on it earlier on the hardware, so maybe the software side of things.
So the software is PT1210. That's created by myself and Akira.
Okay.
The start of that started as a post on the English Amiga board, which you may be a member of, and he just posted the question about, could you play a module and change the pitch at the same time with the BPM? And then it got me thinking, I wonder if that is possible. And then we pulled together some prototypes, and it worked. We were quite amazed. You could change the speed of a Pro Tracker module and keep everything in sync and in pitch together.
And this was probably a pretty crude prototype at this time. You didn't have the nice graphics.
No, we didn't have any
everything
graphics on it at all. So we had it was just a big page of text with all the parameters, so we could see what was happening and what was going on. And then Akira did a lot of work on he obviously did all the UI graphics, which we then integrated into it. Which makes it look, much. It's when you've got that, it's much more fun to use, because you've got all of that feedback. So in terms of the setup, it is just two standard Amiga 600s. Both of them have a 1 meg expansion, chip RAM expansion underneath, just because some of the tunes that I've got are pretty large. I've taken the floppy drives out just to make them lighter. And these little TFT screens that you've got on here, they just take a composite signal. They're pretty cheap on eBay.
We'll get a camera round over your shoulder when we do the set, so we can see what's going on there. I know there's a PT1210 Discord group, and co-creator Akira can be found in there to help you with any questions that you may have. So we'll make sure the link goes up in the description, or just search for PT1210. Is there a website for it?
Yeah, there's a website for it. We'll see if we can get a link somewhere. There you can download the software. We've also got some mod packs that have been curated by myself, Akira, and I think Echo Level did us one as well, a jungle one. So so we're currently working on a new version at the moment. It's obviously taking us a long time, because we've I originally wrote it in assembly. We brought Dopefish on board, Dale, who's been helping us convert a lot of that into C and make it system friendly and a lot more stable. And we've got a lot of features that are coming, but it's a passion project for us, which means when real life gets in the way, you don't get time to work on it.
Yeah, and I've seen it go from, I didn't see the prototype, but I've seen version 1, and I've used it myself. I used it on Raspberry Pis, which actually worked pretty well. That was, and I got a tiny mixer to go with it as well, so I had like the world's smallest DJ setup, but it worked really well. And then it wasn't flawless. There were some problems. Like if we watch Retro Ravi on the 8-Bit Mix, when he does his mixing, every now and then he'll get a guru
Yes,
But he can. It never happens on the one that's playing at the time. It's always when he's selecting a file.
Yeah,
so it quickly resets and then he's back up and running. And I know you want to fix those, but obviously part of that process was, well, let's make it easier, more self-documenting by turning it into C rather than assembly.
I mean, we fixed.
So that's taken quite a time to do.
Exactly, it's taken quite a time to do. Essentially, we fixed a lot of bugs just by moving it into that domain. Automatically. So we did all of that work and then went back to the bug list and went, it's all gone. That's great.
Nigel Harrison, thank you very much. He says, here's the taxi fare home. And £20 super chat donation. You're being incredibly kind, all of you, tonight. Thank you very much. We don't do this for the money. We do it to get Hoffman here so that we can enjoy our own private DJ set. But it's all a bonus. Thank you very much. What's the future of PT1210? Because I've seen in chat a few people have been saying, is there an update?
There's one coming. There's a lot of bug fixes, obviously. We've got prototypes of our file browser version, so you can change folders, read stuff from floppy drive, CF card, where anything that's plugged into the Amiga. Our biggest bug fix actually is we found an issue that if you have two different Amigas with different configurations with CPUs, for example, more powerful CPUs or lesser powerful CPUs, the speed of those machines actually affects the playback speed of the music as well.
Okay, even though your loops are sort of timed to go at the correct speed.
So it does actually affect.
It still affects it.
Still affects it. Yeah. So that was a great day when we fixed that. Yeah, so it's really stable. So we verified it against a 600, a 1200, 4000. We did like audio recordings off of each of those machines, and then did a comparison. And we were like, I think one of the machines was 0.1 BPM out of difference. So yeah, pretty stable now.
Pretty good. Well, we're just about ready for the set here, Vicky. Are there any final questions from the chat?
He wants to know, can you mark which tracks you've already played in the new version?
Ravi says, in the new version, can you mark which tracks you've already played?
Ooh,
he's your number one customer.
Yeah. That's an interesting concept. I wonder if we could do that. Yes, I'll ask Dale.
Okay.
I think that's it.
That's it. Okay. I've just got one more question for you, Columbo style. Just one more thing.
Yeah.
Do you think demos and demo music gets the recognition that it deserves? Because to me, it is art, but it's not widely recognised as that. So do you think it is?
Yeah,
this goes out to both of you. Really.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's as an art form. I mean, I love it as an art form, and the amount of effort and artistry that goes into them at every level, from music to directing, all the way through, is it's phenomenal, the amount of work that goes in and the end result of what you see. But yeah, it's one of those things where if someone who doesn't really know the technicalities of it, they think they're probably just watching this is a nice CGI based movie on YouTube.
Yeah.
But it's obviously much more than that. It's real time. That a computer's generating it. So yeah, I think it'd be good to get it as an art form, maybe in a museum for something like that. It'd be really nice to see something like that.
Yeah, if it's considered truly as heritage and a piece of computing history. And the nice thing is, actually, quite naturally, the whole history of the demo scene has been quite well archived.
Yeah.
And shared. Yeah. So it is out there. What's up? Thank you very much for the £10 super chat. This is not the end of the stream. This is just starting. We're about to go to the live set. Before we do, thank you to Pixel Vixen for passing your questions on. Keith from the Digital Orphanage. James from Let's Talk Retro for so subtly walking down the stairs and joining us. And if you haven't already bought it, I'm sorry, but I've got to do this, guys. This is the RMC Charity Calendar for 2020. We've sold, over 200, nearly 250 of these now. Every penny of profit goes to the Bluebellwood Children's Hospice. It's less than £8, and it's filled with pictures of awesome computers sent in by the viewers. Hopefully you can see it there, but if not, Vicky has just posted a link. So go onto Etsy and grab it. It's available all the way around the world, and it will really help the kids at that hospice. So please. And we're going to go on to the DJ set now. While we're setting up, we'll do that very quickly. What we're going to play is that Eon demo. If you haven't seen it, just pop open a beer, sit back and enjoy it. And then Hoffman, you're going to play your own tunes today?
Yeah, set of my own stuff.
Set of his own stuff, and we'll get started. So we'll be back with you very shortly, guys. Thank you for all your questions.
do right here is go back, 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 back.
It sounds like death.
Progressive pattern hacker, 31 samples of dirty subject matter. We got that Amiga vision. Better bring your homework, boy, cause this is revision. Professional tracker, progressive pattern hacker, 31 samples of dirty subject matter. We got that Amiga vision. Better bring your homework, boy, cause this is revision. Rocking all night to that pattern skank, digging deep in the sample bank. Can't leave nothing blank. Trample the tracks like a battle tank. Roll tracking in our sleep like androids counting. 64 electric sheep. You can find us in the demo scene, proud and raw. Surrounded by Amigas and 64s. 1-bit, 2-bit, 3-bit more. 7-bit, 8-bit, no more. We be making a play with AV projects at 64K. Made aim to win the day. Clear chopping, head bobbing, ragamuffin, never stopping, track smashing, noise catching, get the beat cracking. One more thing left before you go crackers. To the hackers, good visions of pro trackers. samples of dirty subject matter. We got that Amiga vision. Better bring your homework, boy, cause this is revision. Professional tracker, progressive pattern hacker. 31 samples of dirty subject matter. We got that Amiga vision. Better bring your homework, boy, cause this is revision. Hoffman breaking up the tracks with Daytripper, filling in the gaps. Listen up, here's a fact. The demo scene ain't dead. It's just you can't read the code. Better get it in your head before the deadline's closed. Text the form. The fact of the matter is you'll batter you with stuff day before you were born. So listen up before you go crackers. Shout out to the hackers, coefficients of all trackers.
DJ.
There's absolutely nothing I can say after that. That was an awesome set. Thank you, Hoffman. Thank you to everyone who came. Thank you, Rory. Check out novaparty.org. That's right, isn't it? Check the description for links to Hoffman's SoundCloud, so you can go and listen to his tunes. If there are any more links, and also a lot of people have been asking for the set list, so send it over to me. We'll get that added. Keith from the Digital Orphanage, Vicky, Pixel Vixen, James, Let's Talk Retro. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and take care. Bye-bye. He's waving.